So for this project, I had a student named Jake. He is a senior. He's headed to IUP to major in chemistry. I had him sit through lesson 2. I've had him in multimedia for 3 years, but I've not had him in print media. So he does have some prior computer knowledge, actually extensive prior computer knowledge, but not with Photoshop and not necessarily with resolutions for print, which made his navigation of Photoshop easier than the average student, but still provided him with some deeper thinking necessary to answer the questions I gave him. So without further ado, here is Jake learning how to determine image size for print through Photoshop. This morning I'm going to be teaching one of my students, Jake, how to find image size from a Google image that he's going to select randomly from Google. Good morning, Jake. First thing you need to do is open up your browser. I don't care if it's Chrome or Safari.
Chrome. Okay.
Pick any random image you like that is school appropriate. Note I said that is school appropriate.
I'll search Zelda, my favorite game. Okay, searched up, and I'll go to images.
Yes, and then save your image.
I'll save this one.
Awkward silence.
It's lagging so bad.
Please disregard the drawings on my board that you put on my board this morning, Nick.
There we go. Save image as. And I will save that. You want me to save it to the desktop?
Please.
There we go. Says it's saved as a JPEG.
Excellent. So now that you have it as a JPEG, please right-click on that image and open it with Adobe Photoshop.
We'll open with. There's Adobe Photoshop.
And we'll wait for that platform to load.
And slowly opening.
Oh,
there we go.
Oh, yay! So while it's finishing to open,
There we go.
part of this project is that Jake will be able to find out what the image size is of said piece of clip art and then determine if he can use it on print deployment or if it's best used on web deployment. Right, Jake, so now I would like you to, since it's open in Photoshop, you're going to go up to the top where it says image as your drop down ribbon and
Okay.
look for image size.
Found it.
Under image size, click and read what your height, width, and dots per inch is, resolution.
The width is 4.417, height is 2.208, and resolution is 72.
So now that you sort of know what that is, change your inches over to pixels so you can see pixels. That'll even help you determine more.
Pixels. 318 by 159.
So, knowing what you learned in the prior lesson, do you think that that image is appropriate for print deployment with 300 DPI? Guesstimate in your head if it's going out for 300 DPI, and you know it's roughly 4 inches, at 72. If I increase 72 to 300, the ratio for width and height will do what? Get bigger or shrink?
The ratio, as it gets bigger, the ratio I think would shrink.
Good answer. So if we know that it's 4 inches at 72. We'll even go to 100 to make it easier. If I go to 300, 1 to 3 ratio equals 1/3. So what's roughly 1/3 of 4?
That would be 1.3.
Sure, sounds good enough for me for math. And so now that you know that the max size you could put it on a printed poster is 1.3 by 0.75. So would you choose this piece of artwork then if you were printing it?
No.
All right, excellent job, and thanks for piloting part of my lesson. So the test situation took place during my second period multimedia productions class. They're in the middle of working on a larger project, so I could pull a student or two away to be part of this. I still had many that were trying to complete the last step, so I chose Jake, who was already done with his prior step that he needed to move forward for me. It happened in my classroom on my Mac laptop so that I could use both QuickTime to capture the screen capture, and I used PhotoBooth to capture his face as I was doing it, because sometimes I think seeing a facial reaction of a student really shows you if there's deeper learning, because they sort of look grimaced when they're trying to do fractions in their head. I found that Jake was able to complete this task with ease. He is at the top end, as I mentioned in the introduction, of my students as far as their ability to use technology. For a regular student, should I test it on somebody that is new to my class, this would take 3 or 4 times longer, because even navigating to save a photo in Google, it took Jake a little bit, but to save a photo in Google and then to be able to get into Photoshop and find the image ribbon and then the image size and interpret what that is and do the calculations would definitely make this project completely longer. As part of my day 2 project, in my curriculum that I'm writing, day 2 would have them both evaluating the size of a selfie that they screen captured and also evaluating a selfie they sent directly from their phone to the computer, because the screen capture will be considerably smaller than the original one sent from their phone, and thus that conversation would continue in the second day as to which one is more appropriate for print deployment and what one could suffice for online deployment. So that's sort of where this was going, but with limited time and to get to students to be able to run a test, you only saw a very brief portion of what would be day 2. It took Jake roughly 5 minutes to complete this task, and I would say this task within day 2, which is 42-minute classes, this would take my average student 20 to 25 minutes to complete between finding a subject, downloading the photo, and getting that photo then opened and doing the math to figure out the size constraints. Would definitely take the average student a bit longer than it took Jake.
The video went well, the project was good. I learned about fractions and how to adjust the resolution of the images, and how if it's too big it can get distorted or blurry, and if it's too small it can end up being all pixelated, and it's not very good for production vamped up. I also learned how to do fractions that allowed me to adjust resolution, so that way I could bring things to bigger scale if it needed to be bigger scale.